Do you remember when manifesting used to feel magical? Before we knew all the rules, before we started trying so hard to fix every block and flip every thought, and we just believed. When we would do these little rituals without questioning them and set these intentions and just know that it was coming. We didn't know how it was going to come, but we knew that it would. That magic died when we became too logical about it. And all of that wasn't perfect. It didn't always work. But do you know why it was so powerful? It was so powerful because it contained the two things that you need to manifest: emotion and intention. And those things that we used to do were full of it. When we would go under the full moon and swear we could feel its power and script out on a whole piece of paper everything that we want and read it and chant it under the moon, when we were all running around acting like we were witches, that had emotion and it had intention. And that's why those things worked. Emotion and intention are the key to making your nervous system believe something and accept something. And when your nervous system is calm like that, your body literally shifts and your mind relaxes and it shifts, and then it can produce those things into your outer world. You start taking actions that are aligning with your desires, and you start noticing opportunities that would get you there. And yeah, there I go again, like putting in the logic and putting in the brain game behind it all, because when I learned about manifesting, I needed to know the logic. I needed to know. And that's when I found the gateway process and the CIA documents, and I was reading all these published stuff about our government saying that it was all true, and I was just like, you know what, there it is. It confirms it. Now I can believe. And then I got so obsessed with, wanting to know every detail that I forgot the second part. Yes, we have the logic of the real 3D world, but manifestation is illogical because it is spiritual, and what is spiritual can't always be proven. And that's where the faith comes in. And I'm bringing all of this up today because if any of you guys are also in this mindset and struggling with it, I want to get you through that. Like, let's get over it by rewinding and going back to the time when things were easy. Because manifestation is that. It is easy, it is fun, it is light, and when we start putting stressors on it and clocking how much time it takes and figuring out, the exact science behind how everything works, that's when it stops being fun, and that's when our nervous system starts to stress out, and that's when our brain stops producing it. When we're constantly searching for new ways to do things, we're only going to, come up with more and more ways. So emotion is the language of the body, and intention is the direction of your mind. And when both of these things align, that is when the real magic happens. That is when your nervous system treats your desire as real. These things are key. They are the key. Manifestation is really all about emotion, because when you're creating these high emotions, that's what encodes your memory. Past, future, not a thing. Everything is the present moment, right? Time is a construct. So why do we have these memories? Think about all of the memories in your mind that you have gone through your whole life. Every single one of those memories are tied to a really high emotion, and that could be happiness, yes, but it's also a lot of the time negative emotions, sadness, extreme anger. Those emotions, especially negative, intense ones, really sit with us. And when those emotions sit with us, we think back on them and we think back about the memory. And every time you think about the memory, you're just bringing it up again. And that is why, we talk about revision, because revision is changing your emotions around this memory so that it can't exist anymore. And then it basically doesn't exist, and we can move forward in the desire that is completely different. So-and-so broke your heart. You can't stop thinking about it because you feel that pain. So we go back. He showed up with flowers instead. And now every time we think about that situation, we're thinking about the happiness of the flowers. So then now, later, we can actually manifest him showing up with flowers. And that's your reticular activating system, because it's noticing new opportunities that are going to align with these old emotions, or these new replacing the old emotions, instead of the opportunities that align with the previous ones, the negative ones. When we behave like someone who expects our desire no matter what, our internal world has no other opportunity than to shift to match that. Inner creates outer. This is why all of these spells and rituals worked. Lighting candles, chanting, scripting under a full moon, all of that is a surge of emotion. It's all amplifying your belief. Even if we think at the time it's silly and it's fun, it's still triggering this physiological shift in your state. Because we're feeling it so deeply, it is imprinting incredibly powerfully. It's bringing us to this moment where we're so emotionally charged. So that chanting, scripting, full moon session is encoded in your memory. When you receive that desire that you were going for in that moment, you will think back and say, oh, I remember when I scripted for it. I remember when I manifested for this into the full moon. Hey, I created a vision board about this years ago. We remember. There's a lot of emotion and intention tied into those moments. A lot more emotion and intention than robotically affirming. And I'm not saying robotically affirming doesn't work. That is how you can reprogram your mind. The mind also learns through repetition. But the most powerful, quickest way to get something is to feel it real. It's like the ladder technique with Neville, right? So he talked about going to sleep, climbing a ladder, and you visualize yourself doing the act of climbing a ladder until it happens. You're supposed to do this for 3 nights, and then during the day, you write down and place the paper every single place saying, I will not climb a ladder. I will not climb a ladder. He's trying to prove that the intention and emotion and visualizing yourself climbing the ladder, visualizing the act itself, is more powerful than thinking that you won't throughout the day, especially in SATs, because that is an incredibly powerful time to manifest, is right before you fall asleep. Elmer O. Locker Jr., he is a YouTuber, and that's not actually his real name. He is the grandson of the original Elmer O. Locker Jr. And that man, if you've read The Law and the Promise by Neville Goddard, he has a story in there, and it's the one about the dance studio, how he manifested a dance studio. Well, this man, his son was a YouTuber, and his son recorded him talking about this, and he even brings up The Law and the Promise signed by Neville. He talks about his experiences going to these Neville lectures, and it's really cool. So do a quick YouTube search for that if you're interested. It's really cool to hear from someone who knew or was in the presence of Neville. But anyway, he brings up the ladder exercise. So I was listening to this the other day before going to bed, and I was just super inspired. Like, this is just so cool to hear from this guy. And then I decided, I'm going to do it. No, I didn't even really do it falling asleep. I actually was just, as he was talking about it, he was kind of going through how the exercise was done. And so I closed my eyes, and as I was listening to them, I did it in my head, right? And, coming out of it, it was so funny because I said, there's no way I'm going to be climbing a ladder anytime soon. Like, if you guys don't know, I was in a motorcycle accident and I was in a wheelchair for 9 weeks. I'm walking now with a cane, so I'm healing. Everything's fine. But there was no way I was going to be climbing a ladder in 3 days, right? I'm adamant about that. I'm pretty certain. Well, the next day after I did this, the dogs needed their HeartGuard medicine. So I go into the medicine cabinet and I'm reaching up to grab it, and I notice it's for some reason on the highest shelf suddenly when it used to be on the bottom one. And I'm reaching for it and I'm like, oh, I need to go grab a step stool. No way, I am not grabbing a little mini ladder and climbing up it to get their medicine. Absolutely not. I visualized that one night. I am not doing it. I ended up having to do it because I could not reach it. But it was so funny. It's so funny how that stuff works like that, the way it does. When people came back, after the technique worked, Neville said, you see how easily you manifested that? You could have manifested $1 million. So that's kind of where I'm getting at. It's the act of doing it. It's the physiological shift in the state. It's feeling something so real that it has no choice but to come. And that's kind of exactly what I, wanted to talk about today, because it's the greats, they set this example for us. And what's crazy, like Neville was ahead of his time, and I'm sure you've heard people say that before, but what that means is he came up with this blueprint for manifesting. And the science behind, the neuroscience behind all of this stuff and the quantum physics and all that wasn't really figured out yet. So everything with him was spiritual, and it ties in perfectly to the neuroscience and the quantum physics behind manifesting. It kind of is a representation of how we all feel now. A lot of people these days, they don't want to rely on the faith. They want to know the science. And that's also why Dr. Joe Dispenza does what he does, because he knows that, and he's a great for, this time. But you have people like Neville and Florence Scovel Shinn, and they tell you, you don't need techniques. You are the technique. So just assume, just be in the state, and you'll get all of your manifestations. And you know what? That's great. You should be assuming I am a goddess. I always get everything I want. You work on your self-concept, you work on your manifestation ability, and you do that through assuming, and that is how you get all of the things that you want in life. Yes. However, what happens if you are manifesting something, incredibly specific? Like, what if you really just want this scene to play out? What if you really want him to show up with flowers? It kind of all changes when it's not really an identity. And that's when we want to go and be specific and do the things and do the fun, magical things. We know we're supposed to be in the state, but we haven't even programmed our subconscious minds. We haven't repeated enough an affirmation that says, I can manifest by just being in the state. And that is key, because we have to strengthen that neural pathway that even believes in our abilities to be the higher power itself. So if you're starting out in manifesting and you're like, okay, I got to do, the scripting, and I got to do the affirmations, and you do it and it starts working, just like doing the ladder technique. You see the results, and that's fantastic. But then you have all of these people who have been manifesting for years and years and years telling you, you don't need to do that. You just need to assume. You don't need techniques. You are the technique. So we stop doing the techniques, and guess what happens? Our minds weren't ready. So science stepped in and it said, it's about strengthening your neural pathways. It's about regulating your nervous system. And then we stopped feeling. We started overanalyzing everything. We've turned manifestation into work and logic when it is supposed to be about wonder and faith. Science just explains why the magic works. It doesn't replace the magic. So our problem now is in overthinking. It's treating manifestation like a chore and like work instead of the fun, light, airy. It's supposed to be, a moment of power and bringing in whatever we want. We're obsessing over our blocks instead of obsessing over our desire. And then we're becoming emotionally numb because we think we have to shut off our emotions to be detached. Emotion and intention. Where is the emotion and intention? Instead of summoning these feelings, we're forcing results. And that's where we get trapped. We're starving our spirituality. So let's feed it. And it's the perfect time to feed it in October. It's spooky season. This season is literally about becoming whoever you want. The veil is thin, the imagination is stronger. All of these rituals feel so much more natural right now, and they feel so powerful. Seriously, light some candles and turn the lights off and put some Gregorian chants on and just manifest and feel it. It's Halloween. It's Halloween. If you can dress up as a witch or a Hooters girl and pretend to be one of those things. You can pretend to be your most highest version of yourself. You can pretend to have self-love. You can pretend to be healed. You can pretend to be wealthy. You can pretend to be in the relationship. You can pretend to be in the new home. You can pretend there's a bouquet of flowers in your hand. Now's the time to do it. Now's the time to embody the state, to be it. I also just really love this season because October 26th, my birthday, this is the best week ever leading up to my birthday and then leading up to Halloween right after. But yes, so let's seriously make the time to call things forth with emotion and with power and intention, because these little rituals like this, give us intention and emotion, and it's never dark, it's always light, it's always fun, healthy, for the greater good. We don't want to be exhausted this month. We don't want to be robotic this month. We don't want to overanalyze everything this month. If you can just cultivate a little spark of that magic within yourself, you can change everything. You can feel so much more power. We can open that path to our desires and then lay back and watch them, literally watch them as they melt into you, as you call everything back into you that you want. It's not, the rituals. It's not the candle. That's magic. It's you. You are the magic. So let's bring the fun back into manifestation. The fun will come when you believe in yourself, when you stop stressing out about everything, when you find that magic, that part of manifestation that excites you. When you first figured out, oh my God, this is real, I am creating. Bring that back. Bring that feeling back. Get excited when things happen. When you manifest little things, those things are huge, and they could just as easily be the big things. So we want to celebrate all of them. All of them. Angel numbers. Fuck it. Everything. I bought my car 4 years ago, and I found out after I bought it that the door didn't lock. The passenger door did not lock. And it's so expensive to get it fixed. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to worry about it. Just don't leave anything valuable in there. But anyways, for 4 years, I never heard it lock. The other day I was with my mom and she went into UPS and I was sitting in her car and my exact car pulled up to me. And as the lady got out, I said, I wonder what my car sounds like when it beeps. So she got out, she locked her car and it did the beep beep. And I was like, oh my God, it's so cute. My car sounds so cute. I wish I could hear my car make that noise. After 4 years, I just randomly got locked out of that side of the door, by the way. So I started randomly clicking everything. Okay, doors locking and unlocking. That's great. My mom's driving my car. I'm in the passenger seat. Get halfway down the road, and then I realize, oh my God, it's locking and unlocking for the first time. I just manifested that like it was nothing, because I have been in such a state of receiving mode and I'm not working anymore mode for these desires. If I'm affirming, I always get what I want, and I have just decided I'm not forcing anything anymore. And look, something so material and illogical just fell down in my lap like that. I would have never expected that, but that's my success. That's my fun success story for the day. So let me know what has happened to you recently. Like, let's celebrate that, because that's huge. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe before you go if you're not already, and I will see you guys in a future video. Okay, bye.